Hello. How fun is this to be able to spend time together here on the You've Got Nurse Series podcast? This is a place to explore practical ways to improve our health, which heightens our life experience. I invite you to join in with an open heart and an open mind to receive our guest today.
Welcome. I am delighted that you're here to join me today with Alissa Bickar. She is a real estate investor, a certified coach and speaker, and she is a certified human potential trainer. Alissa, I want you to further introduce yourself and let us know how you got to where you are today and what were some of the turning points that brought you to the place where you're at now.
I mean, how much time do we have, Catherine? I'm delighted to be here with you. The consultress is who I am, and that took a long time to build that identity as someone who's fearless and someone who is committed, dedicated, compassionate, a little bit of sass and a little bit of kick-ass. So I think when I hear like my titles, some of this did start with becoming certified as a human potential trainer. I opened my business. A friend of mine was like, "Can I hire you for all this advice you've been giving me?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, right. I'm in business as a consultant. Duh." But that happened quite naturally by just being generous with my ideas and my relationships and my time. So where I am today is a product of leaning in to who I am continuing to evolve to be. And that gets to be the thing that I pay forward. So yes, I am a real estate investor. I come from a family that was immigrants to this country and built a life and the lifestyle investing in business and real estate. So I have entrepreneur running in my veins and financial prowess that my mama taught me early on. You cross those T's, you dot those I's, and you balance that checkbook. Mm-hmm. So I kind of put all of that together to create and pay forward for people who are brave enough to be entrepreneurs, who want to make a difference in this world, who have gotten to where they are. But a term I heard recently was, "What got you here will keep you here." Wow. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what happens, because you reach this level and then you grind it out thinking something's got to give. I thought I was on a growth path, but I seem to have leveled out. And that happens to all of us unless we intentionally lean into that which is for us next. And, the long and short of my story is I was born into this entrepreneurial family, and my dad came over here with nothing and, built a retail business that invested the profits in rental and commercial real estate. And, I decided to become a blue collar employee. I was a blue collar employee for like the beginning part of my career. I was working in those bagel stores, smearing cream cheese, smiling, giving everybody coffee. That's where my customer service comes from. But as I grew and got my college degree and went into the area of finance, I started to learn that people in all of these different businesses shared stuff in common. I was seeing trends and through lines for big business, small business, franchise business, and how each of these segments have growth potential, but they hit a wall and need to break through. So they need some advice, some perspectives, new partners. They need to become a new leader in and of themselves. And so I just started doing that at every wall that I hit. I was unsatisfied being in my family business, so I joined a team in a bank. And then I was a teller, a customer service rep, a manager, a spirit coordinator. And then I hit the wall. So I had to re-innovate. But the weird thing is I had in my mind that I was quitting every time instead of I was evolving and not settling for what I was supposed to be doing or should be doing. So the consultress is like me leaning into all the confidence, not only that I could muster in the moment, but that I knew I could possibly gain through taking risks. And that has rewarded me. And then I get to pay that forward to the people that I serve.
Well, it's really delightful. And I love it that you talk about evolving. And I love it that you talk about not settling, right? And one of the reasons we're talking here today is because I believe that part of our well-being is this evolution and is going with the flow of the, the universal energy that we are all a part of, right? And when we do not do that, our health is impacted as well, because, vibrationally, when we're not allowing ourselves to evolve as we're meant to, then our level of vibration and those chemical cocktail reactions to disappointment and, frustration and, that settling that you refer to, causes, on a cellular level, for our body to not function as it's meant to be, right? And so, and part of our well-being is also financial security, right? And because when we're not financially secure, it's a trouble.
Yeah. I mean, if you put it any of these ways, when you're not confident, when you're not in your confidence, you're in your struggle brain. It's almost like my kids. They say, "You always say," when they're fighting with me. And in that moment, I believe that they believe it's true that I always say, but it's only true that I have always said whatever that is in the same vein of thought or in the same argument in the emotion that they're in. So it isn't, in fact, always. It's always when you're thinking this way, it seems that this is the only way it has ever been. And that's how we all behave. So when we're tight on finance, we feel like nothing's ever going to work out, or we're constantly going to have to struggle. And we have this, like our mind tricks us into thinking that it is permanent, what it is we're experiencing in that moment. So it's important to take care of our physical health, our emotional health, and our financial health, because that gives us the best possible foundation to look at things with clearer, more objective possibilities. We can more clearly envision what comes next from there. But from that struggle bus, those windows are super cloudy. We can't see anything out of there, and we just only see the struggle that's in front of us.
Right. And it really, oh my gosh, it affects everything when we can't open up to look from different perspectives and to be that active listener and bring in, other ideas and all this information that comes to us. And it's just like, oh my gosh, right? I mean, if we really opened ourselves up to it, we could have an epiphany every day.
I try to every single day. Yes.
I know, right? And it's really fun that way. It's just like, oh.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So the thing that occurred to me, recently I started swimming every single day. And I thought it was going to be my daughter and I getting up really early and having a buddy system and going to work out. She's, going to lift weights and I'm going to go swim. After a few days of being there and her being like, yeah, I'll come, or no, I won't, I started to realize that I started my day feeling better. My thoughts weren't controlled by what I had to get up and do. My thoughts were geared towards like, oh, I get to go and play in the water. And it it made something come alive for me that had been missing for a really long time, that physical joy of being active in play. So for most of us adults, like and being trained as a human potential trainer, I'm basically certified in adult learning, which is reverse engineering some of the industrial age concepts that we've all come through if you've been through any type of schooling and you're alive on this planet right now. Mm-hmm. So I had to reverse engineer for myself that physical exercise doesn't have to be hard, because every time I thought about, I'm going to go to the gym, my brain immediately was like, but that's going to suck, And so what swimming did for me this time was like, it didn't suck at all. Like I got to have fun with exerting, fun with feeling more strong. And I've been paving the track for enjoyable exercise because I love to dance and whatever, but I'm not a spring chicken anymore. So I can't move the way I used to move, but in the water, I feel like I've got everything at my disposal. So what has happened for me now in my work life, because my physical life is now on this upward momentum and trend. Now, when I fall off the wagon with my eating habits, I don't feel as bad because I'm like, you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to get up and move, right? And I'm going to have fun moving, and I'm not going to feel so. It's granted me this peace that spills over into my work. Mm-hmm. It spills over into my bank account. It's crazy. I've been able to take more risks from here because I just feel more solid. I feel more taken care of because I'm paying attention. to what my body needs so that I can function at my best.
Mhm. It makes a huge difference. That body-mind connection is just, right there. I mean, it's a real thing, that body-mind-spirit connection. And the heart-brain coherence is fabulous. And what I love about you said is that you get to go play in the water, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to, right? But I get to. And so isn't that so fun from the get-go? And oh, what was the other thing that you said? I don't know. It'll come back around as we keep talking. But I just love it because that physical exercise is critical for how we operate. We're not meant to be sitting around as much as most of us do, right? And I think one of the things about the industrial age and some of these, former eras, right? People were more active.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, not having lived in that time, was there as much discontent overall as we're sensing that there is now? I don't know. But I do think that, for various reasons, people are not as physically active as they could be, right? And it does make a big difference. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, myself included. I work from home. So I'm on video meetings and phone calls and replying to emails, and I do a lot of staying still.
Yep.
And I realized that I wasn't moving. I mean, I put step counters on my phone, and I have the watch that counts the steps, but that I was not moving. So making it a priority for me now to like start my day with leaving the house and coming back, come home before 8 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
I'm not like the day's not gone, but it now feels like I've already done an adventure, an excursion. I feel like I've given myself like dessert before dinner in a way.
Right.
And now the rest of the day gets to kind of take its own momentum from there. And it does feel very much like it's a gift to myself where something about getting up and doing my writing. I now do writing in the evening to keep myself, bookend the good stuff right as soon as I start the day, and also leave the day with a victory log and some writing, so that I'm constantly like these two habits for me of taking care of myself early, and then taking care to acknowledge instead of hopping over those things and saying, I didn't do as much as I intended today. I'll do better tomorrow. That's like a trap of thinking, but it's industrial age thinking, right? Because the conveyor belt never stops. Sit down, shut up, and screw the screw is something one of my mentors, Cynthia Greenawalt, used to say, that the industrial age kind of trained us not to be creative. So now that we're in this, I call it the age of disruption, we're in this opportunity zone to, upend a lot of these assumptions. We also have to upend, now that we can work from anywhere, and maybe you're only working from one place, you have the ability to choose different adventures because everything's not going back to normal. And isn't that cool? But our industrial brain is going, no, this is not normal. Freak out. I call BS. Like, it is very good that it's not going back to normal, because that it puts us at cause. It puts us at choice.
Well, and really, what is normal, right?
How long do we have?
I mean, there's no such thing as perfection, right? Because the only power that we have is in the present moment. And so if you think, oh, this is just wonderful, well, guess what? That moment's gone already. And now we're in the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and things are always changing. So it's imperative to set yourself up with those feel-good hormones in the morning, right? That you're doing by going to play in the water. And it makes a huge difference in how your whole body operates.
Yeah. And can I, for just pivot the conversation back to the financial health piece?
Yes.
Because it's something that so many of us like wince at, or, kind of like begrudgingly, okay, I'm going to balance my checkbook. Or for those of us, like, I'll look at my transaction history and assume that the bank is making the right calls. How much money is in here, right? Is, a lot of people think that looking at your money is stressful, because it can be very stressful. It's very looking at your money is can be very emotional, where we're then judging ourselves for what we did or didn't do, or how much we did or didn't spend. And, for me, one of the main practices that I put in place for myself personally and for all of my clients and the communities that I collect is we do a personal financial statement every single month.
Yeah.
And some of my clients update that every week, because the more often you do it, the more often you look at it, you desensitize yourself from the emotional roller coaster that avoidance creates. So looking at your liabilities versus your assets and netting that out to your net worth, as well as looking at your expenses and netting that out from your income to seeing your cash flow. If you're measuring those 4 buckets that derive those 2 pieces of information every single month, you can watch yourself more objectively in how what it is that you actually pay attention to, what you are actually valuing. Because oftentimes we kind of convince ourselves that I'm doing wonderful and things are great. And then we look at the money and we're like, but many business owners, we are geared to keeping our books and to knowing our profit and loss and to knowing the balance sheet. But do you understand, or do you continue to measure where that comes home to you? Why you're doing all of that to begin with? And this is the revelation and the evolution, I think, that continues to make a difference for me and for my clients, is that, why I'm in business is not to let that thing dictate my life. It is so that I, myself, and who I'm becoming can dictate how I continue to show up and provide value in the world, which, by the way, creates revenue in my business.
Right.
And so being able to take the reins back into how does this money flow through to my household, and where is it providing value, or where am I losing time? So taking your inventory of your money is a great foundational step to growing, because it makes you a good steward of that resource. Do the same audit on your time. Where are you? Look through your calendar. Where have you spent your time, and who are you spending with? And is it fueling you, or is it depleting you? Knowing these metrics, knowing what's really important, this is part of the evolution that some of us, as we grow, we stop measuring the right things because new things have become important and we didn't update the systems.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting when you were talking about balance sheets and results and the important pieces of information. 2 things came to mind. Is that, all of those things are kind of like your lab results, right? It shows you where you're at, right? And also, because we are these energetic beings and everything is energy, money is energy as well. And when you can look at things from an energetic standpoint and take that emotion out of it, right? I don't think that we ever eliminate the emotion, and I'm not saying to squash it or not realize it, though, the research shows that the average lifespan of an emotion is only up to 2 minutes. Another study says it's 90 seconds or less. So we don't have to keep doing that same emotional review every week, right? It's like, okay, let's make a little progress here. Let's just take a look at this. Money's energy, and what am I doing with it? Right. And I'm glad that you talked about the time, because when we're not productive with our time, we end up, with that split energy, and then we get stagnant. Pardon me.
Yeah. And had my mentor in my first job in New York City. He recruited me right up out of the branches and was like, you need to work with me in the wealth management department. Come to Madison Avenue. I was like, okay. But he said to me, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yes.
And that simple phrase allowed me to see just where I was staying stuck or staying stagnant. Was that it didn't have an element of adventure to it. Like, that's how I've come to know where my growth edge is, because I feel like there's adventure or there's excitement. Sometimes that feels like terrifying, because excitement and terror are just like one hair difference, if at all. But where I feel that pull to growth, it has the element not of stagnation, but of curiosity, of intrigue. And that's what you follow. Because if you're not growing and you are like decaying, like look at a sandcastle. You build a sandcastle on a beach, go back a week later. Is it still there? No, it is not. Unless you put the glue and, anyway. So what I'm trying to get at is if you're always trying to manage your life, manage your finances, manage your health from avoiding the worst case, you're in that you're not growing, you're dying phase. Right. You're not giving yourself the ability to come out of survival thinking and see the forest through the trees, see what is possible, what vision you could possibly create next, what you lean into. You're stuck in that space of, I'm just trying to limit my exposure to risks, or I'm limiting my exposure to failure. But that thinking's upside down. In this new age, that's your creativity trying to get your attention.
Mm-hmm. No question. And that phrase, afraid of failure, is just like, oh my gosh, everything's an experiment. And, okay, so everything is information. If it doesn't quite work out how you think it was going to, well, you learned something that you can apply to the next time. It's not like you're going back to, square one every time, right?
Right.
And at the risk of repeating myself, I quite often use the analogy of, the energy is always moving. The train is always leaving the station. And are you on it or are you not? Right?
Yeah. So the healthiest thing to do is do something. I constantly am hearing a lot of people say, well, what if this happens? And what if that happens? And what if something else that you haven't thought of actually happens? Because we have 360 degrees worth of possibilities, which you just named was 2 points on that sphere.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And what's interesting about that is because every thought and every emotion and every action has this energetic value to it, evaluate that, right? Because really, your body follows your mind. And so depending on what you're thinking, what you're saying, how you talk to yourself, how you talk to other people, makes a huge difference.
Yeah. I actually, if you allow me, I have a resource that I created that I would be willing to give anybody who's watching or listening to this conversation. Over a decade ago, I created a tool called the Decision Matrix that really helps you to get a handle on the worst case fear-based worry and anxiety and put a numerical value to it and compare that with the opportunity in front of you, the reason why, the outcome you actually want that this fear is kind of pushing and pulling against. And so I created a matrix for you to quantify not only the fear, but its probability, and not only the vision, but your level of dedication to it. So that when you get your final numbers, just like I was talking about with the assets and the liabilities that net to the net worth and the income and the expenses that net to the cash flow, you get your fear factor and your opportunity quotient that now you can compare. They're both numbers out of 100. So which one's bigger? Which one are you more dedicated to? Which one has more pull on you? Because you may have some more, if your fear factor is bigger, you may have some more work to do in terms of metabolizing the fear, getting more information so you can mitigate that fear and know more clearly about what the opportunity there is or what's standing in its way. And, if your opportunity quotient is higher than the fear factor, that's also telling you something. It's telling you that what you're dedicated to and the vision that you have has empirically now, not just guesswork, not just maybes or a kind of feel a sort of way. You have empirical ways to evaluate and say, oh, this is actually bigger for me. I actually have more dedication than I do fear. And it helps you to come through and make a clearer distinction and decision for yourself on how you get to take the power back to move forward in your life rather than listening to those shoulds or, the doom and gloom from whatever sources you're pulling information from. So if anybody would like a copy of that Decision Matrix worksheet, I'm happy to share it.
Well, I think that's fabulous. And I think that, we will let people know where to find you. In fact, you could tell us right now, how can people find you? Because I want them to be able to do that.
Awesome. So the best way to find me is on LinkedIn. If you Google Consultress, you will find me everywhere. You should connect. But send me a DM on any of the platforms asking for the decision matrix. And I'm on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So any of those platforms, if you play on them and you want this decision matrix, send me a link request and send me a direct message saying, can I have the decision matrix? And it's yours. Totally complimentary.
Oh, well, that's fabulous. I think that's great. I think that it's a wonderful thing because we have a tendency to embellish and fabricate beliefs, right? And embellish and fabricate those fears, right? And without, we might not have even done any research, but Uncle Joe said, well, that's maybe from a different generation and a whole different experience. It doesn't have anything to do with you, right?
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah. When I hear, but she said, well, let's consider the source. Is she an expert or is she well-versed in this thing that you're making a decision upon? Like, so if you're going to be, and I'll go back to the easily digestible, you don't want a health coach who is unhealthy, right? You don't want someone who has a lot of trauma to be your therapist, right? You want to make sure that you're considering source of someone who has been there or is trained in ways to make a positive impact for you. So yeah, we have our Uncle Joes living in our head and our so-and-so from decades ago who didn't believe in us, or that person that, in my life was like, you just seem to keep quitting. And I'm like, it took me a long time to recalibrate and say, that was their fear about me moving on from places that they didn't understand. Right. That was a judgment from their life, looking at me saying, I'm afraid for you because I can't see what you see. But that's not the words they use. That's not what they're like, no, it looks like you're just quitting. No. So again, consider the source. When you look into someone who's telling, even the thoughts that you remember about other people telling you what they think about stuff is, that sounds like a scheme, or that. Do your homework, do the research, decide for yourself, but ask people and find resources that know what they know that you can rely on. Like, that's the name of the game here. Like, relationship capital to me is the thing that runs the world. It's why I believe that entrepreneurs save the world, because we're constantly innovating current world problems and creating solutions live. At least I know I am, to move the needle forward, to create what's coming tomorrow. And we get to all do that in our individual lives, whether or not you're an entrepreneur. We get to decide what tomorrow will look like.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. It's all a choice. It's a choice of what we choose to think, what we choose to act, and how we choose to feel about something, right? If we're feeling threatened by something, it's just like, well, okay, what's causing me to think that, right?
Yeah. And it all comes down to, what am I feeling? What is this feeling trying to tell me? And where is it coming from? Because sometimes our heart, our head, and our gut have different signals, and they don't always line up to equal like the same message. So we have to do a bit of interpretation. Right. So when your head and your gut is giving you information that, one's in worry mode and one's in constriction, and the heart is beating fast, well, this is your body giving you signals. And then you get to interpret, okay, the last time I felt this way was, and this is kind of what I've been talking to a lot of people about this lately, like the last 5 years, as of this recording, the pandemic was here 5 years ago, and, everybody was really afraid. There was a lot of unknowns, and we were relying on half-baked information, like everywhere we looked. So I'm still metabolizing the effects of that, global level of like nervous system heightenedness. And it shows up in weird ways. Like, I get nervous and jerky when I'm watching a TV show that has something that's, life-threatening happening. I'm like, that's not threatening my life, but I'm feeling this feeling anyway. So this heightened state that everyone's in, we kind of feel like we've been put back to normal, but nothing is back to normal. Everyone's still dealing with the effects of this, life shaking thing. And 20 years before that, 9/11 happened to us here in the States. So there's in my lifetime, a bunch of things that add up to why I shouldn't feel safe and why I should fear everything and try to give up my ability to make those decisions. But at the end of the day, knowing that a lot of people are feeling that way and trying to put on a courageous face, it helps us all to be more human with each other if we let it. We don't have to be combative or try to, get our own worldview validated so that we're right, so that we feel safe. It's something that I think we can all do for each other, whether you're entrepreneurs or not. In your own personal life, just listening and trying to find common ground is it's not a lost art. It's on the way back up. If you can be an agent for change and listen for ways to connect to people, I think it will go a long way to healing that I'm afraid of everyone, everywhere, at all times, and I have to be in survival mode, which reduces my ability to make good decisions for my future.
Right. And what's fascinating, you mentioned the listening, and, when we do listen and we respond versus react, it's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
It was told to me by Jack Canfield, but every event plus our response equals the outcome. So are we knee-jerking? Are we reacting out of habitual conditioning? Or are we really taking pause and putting some thought into, okay, the event doesn't determine the outcome. My response to this event is what creates either the same outcome I've always had or something different that I would prefer.
Yeah. And that's our choice.
Yeah. Lady, I feel like we could talk all day long and never be done with growth and learning. So if you wouldn't mind, for me, I love learning from you, because every time we talk, I feel like I walk away with something new. I love how you keep equating it back to like health and vibration and energy. So based on kind of like all we've been talking about here today, what is some of your takeaways from our conversation?
I think that we both have a good understanding of how we operate. And I believe that the more people understand about the basics, just the basics of how they operate, they make much better decisions for themselves. And at this point, at my tender young age, I've been at this for a while, right?
Yeah.
And right now, I feel like I'm a calm in a storm. And does that mean I'm happy about everything that's going on? No. Most of it, I cannot directly control. And going back to how we respond to things indicates the outcome. And we each have an individual outcome. And how we respond and how we contribute to the universal outcome makes a difference. And I think it's important that people consider that too, right? We're all a universal collective.
Yeah.
And I think it's imperative for people to stop and go, oh, what am I broadcasting? Right?
Yeah. Hey, so good. Like, what am I broadcasting right now? Because we get stuck in our own like frame that like, this is my experience I'm experiencing. You're also metabolizing and experiencing what the people around you are experiencing. Just because we're social beings, we are constructed that way. We're not, one-man armies off here in a silo by ourselves. Like you're talking about being that calm in the storm. I'm taking that away with me today. What am I broadcasting?
Right. I always ask people what they do for self-care, and you've already told me about going for the swimming, right? Which I think is fabulous, right? And also that you understand about the listening and the responsiveness and really that self-evaluation, I believe, is really critical. And not to be judgmental and to be berating yourself. But if you don't evaluate, you don't have information to move forward with, right? True. Sometimes we need a little outside eye for evaluation also. And that's why I think that mastermind groups are good. I understand that you have a mastermind group.
Oh, I have a few. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I like to gather people based on a common theme. So
Uh-huh.
I have a men's group. I have a spiritually based entrepreneurs group.
Mhm.
A women called Babes in Business group. And I'm developing them all the time based on the collective, the common theme of what people want to be working on.
Well, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about shoe styles, right? And some of these shoes, people having their feet bound, people, and some of these shoe styles that are highly uncomfortable, and people somehow feel obligated to wear them, right? And it's just like, what?
Yeah. That lady, I haven't worn a stiletto in a really long time.
I haven't either, and I'm not missing it a bit.
Right? No, my pinky toes are very happy with that decision.
Oh, this is fun. You are right. We could talk all day. And so we're going to take our pinky toes and have a beautiful rest of the day, right?
That's man.
Alissa, thank you so much. You take good care. I look forward to talking with you again soon.
Thank you. This has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining in today on the You've Got Nurse Series podcast. I appreciate your time, as our time is our most precious commodity. We never get the time back. Using our time intentionally and with purpose makes a difference. Kindly like and share if you find this content helpful. I invite you to explore a bit more of the work, which you can find on my websites of you'vegotnurse.org and theartofselfcraftsmanship.org. It will be my pleasure to hear from you with any questions you may have. Take good care of you and your ultimate mind diet in the meantime.